What is up, my Gaggle of Geeks, and welcome to my review of Strawberry Mansion. I actually got to see this movie before it came out at Sundance, just like a couple days before. It's directed by Kentucker, Audley, and Birney, and it is about in the future where a government is recording your dreams and taxing them even, so you can't even dream on your own. A dream auditor gets caught up in the dreams of an aging eccentric, so this guy has to go to this beautiful house that's just covered with VHS tapes of this woman's dreams. He has to actually audit them, put them into a system so they can be taxed. As he's doing that, he starts to discover more about her life, and he starts to go into kind of a dream state of discovering himself, discovering more about her, and possibly not being able to get out of it. It's a trip of a movie in a lot of ways, and I had a pretty good time with this. The thing that really struck me with this movie was first the props and the setting design. It felt kind of like it was a old school Star Wars era film where they were futuristic, but it was also retro at the same time. So I really liked that. Kentucker Audley, being the director, is also the star of this, playing James Preble. He does a really good job, as well as Penny Fuller and Grace Glowicki, who played both versions of this girl, because as he goes into her dream states, he starts to see this woman as her younger self. So there are multiple people playing the same character. Her family shows up. When the family shows up, it does get a little bit hammy for me. However, it's meant to be over the top, but whether it works for you or not is kind of going to be up to you. I really did enjoy watching Strawberry Mansion, and I really enjoyed what's about to happen now, because I was able to get Kentucker and Albert on the show to talk to me about their movie right before the awards and everything like that. So I'm excited to play that for you. Let's go ahead and roll it. All right, my Gaggle of Geeks. So, of course, as promised, we have a very special review and interview. No, we're not, because I'm changing something real quick. Oh, maybe it did work. Did it work? Hold on. Let's go. All right, my Gaggle of Geeks. So, of course, as promised, we have a very special review and interview today with the creators of Strawberry Mansion. We got Kentucker Audley and Birney. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you
so much for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yours was actually the first film that I got to see at Sundance a little bit before it's Sundance premiered. So it was like the day before. So I feel like I've got a good grip on it. And then Sundance gave me a wave of like hundreds of movies. So if I feel a little foggy when I ask questions, I apologize in advance.
No, it's unnatural how many movies people are asked to watch during this time. I
react quickly to it.
Yeah, react. It's like watching 5 movies in a row and reviewing. I can't imagine what it's like to have to, press these things out so quickly.
Well, I can't imagine having to make as great a film as you guys did. When did you start filming, and where did the concept come from?
Yeah, we started filming in September of 2019 here in Baltimore, where I am now. That's where we filmed the movie. And yeah, we did it in 2 sections. So we filmed in September and then stopped for a couple weeks to make some more props and things. And then we finished filming in December and spent all last year editing. The initial concept just kind of, it came from a couple different places. One of the initial kind of feelings that inspired the movie was just like, being a kid and dreaming of someone, and then waking up and that person, realizing that person's not real, and kind of feeling like heartbroken in a way. That was definitely, that was something that happened to me when I was maybe 12 or 13. And that, I stuck with me my whole life. So that was an initial feeling. An image of just kind of like this old farmhouse filled with VHS tapes and what would be on those tapes. That was another early image. And then just kind of like, putting those things together and figuring out a way to kind of like connect dreams and explore the exploration of dreams with this, old artistic woman in this farmhouse with all her tapes, and just kind of trying to like organically let that story grow from there and see just like a dream where it took us kind of on these twists and turns. It was a long time coming. It was over a decade of kind of like sitting with these ideas and attempting to tell this story. Yeah.
So, and Kentucker, what was it like working? Because I know that both of you have some worked together in the past. What was it like both coming into this, both as directors and actors? And as far as like what your preference is, who do you like more, the Kentucker that's the actor or that's the director?
Neither. Well, I fell in love with movies thinking of making them. You know, acting was very sort of kind of just a function of not knowing who else to get and how else I could get other actors to work for free. And I mean, so movies have always been about creating them. And I remember when I first learned how to edit, like that was like, oh man, I feel so much of my identity is like in this ability to piece together these scenes and these ideas. And like, so I think first and foremost, I see myself as a filmmaker. Over the years, it's been kind of like, oh, I get it's nice to be out of your comfort zone. Like I'm not a natural performer, and I don't really like to talk loud or very much. But I think, and I get nervous, you know, and anxious. But it's nice to be put out of my comfort zone, to just sort of like, you're forced to perform in front of people, and I think there's some value in that. So I think I like both sides of it. It's funny, in terms of Albert, I would say like Albert, I don't think he's much of an actor if he doesn't have a mask on, but if you put a mask on him, he becomes this incredible presence.
Oh, really?
Like he plays, everybody that has a mask in this movie pretty much is played by Albert underneath, and he played Silvio in our last film. So he's an incredible physical actor that, I don't know if you want to speak to how incredible of an actor you are, Albert.
Well, I don't know. I mean, all I'll say is, you know, for a while I wanted to act as well without masks on, and I just couldn't do it. And everyone would say, yeah, you're not very good at acting. And then so I can put a mask on and maybe it hides something, and I can, you know, become a different character totally and inhabit that. So it's just, yeah, it's fun. And I don't know if what happens when I put the mask on, but something happens, and yeah. I love it.
I think now with COVID-19, anybody can relate to the putting the mask on idea.
Yeah.
I did want to ask regarding, because the things that struck out to me, the as far as the technical aspect, was first the prop design and the set design. It all felt, and maybe you've heard this before, it felt retro futuristic, where like there's a lot of stuff in there that kind of felt to me like it was a Star Wars movie, where like you were using props that definitely, like a vacuum tube, you know, is one where you could point out and it's like, oh wow, but they're making it work with it, making it feel like that's the tech of the time. What made you decide to go for that aesthetic?
Yeah, I think a lot of that just comes from my own like personal love of building and making things, and kind of finding everyday items and household items or junk out of a dumpster and like repainting it and gluing it together. And you know, just what can happen when you start doing that. Like, I've always loved making things that way. So, you know, I don't know how to actually make these machines, but I know how to like glue a bunch of discarded TV parts and VCR parts and vacuum tubes together and creating kind of like this like heightened version of something. And I think, you know, that's kind of, it gets at like the heart of what we're doing. Like, we both love movies that are very much like movies for movie's sake, like that take you on an adventure and kind of build a world that you can get lost in. And yeah, like Star Wars, so many of these movies, they just, you know, if you stop to look at like what's actually happening, you're like, wait a minute, like that's not really how this would work. But if that's how the filmmakers have chosen to portray it, and the actors are lost in that world, and then we get lost in that world, it all works, you know? So I think, and just like all the practical effects, like growing up watching Beetlejuice and these movies where, you know, you can tell that things are animated, but it doesn't matter because they're scary or they feel real. So just like embracing that handmade, homemade quality, and knowing that if we believe in it, then it feels believable on the screen, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'm glad I like the retro futuristic kind of mentality. That's what we were looking at throughout the film, and the future and past divide. Some of the elements look really past, like old fashioned, and some of them, are like some mangled 80s version of the future. But it's fun to throw it all in there together and just like create some filmscapes, visual landscapes that are like unusual to see. We're not looking at just an apartment or some ordinary everyday scene. Everything we put in the frame is sort of like an attempt to transport you out of everyday visuals.
Sure. And with your character specifically, Kentucker, you have to work with two versions of the same character when it comes to Bella. What was it like working with Penny Fuller and Grace Glowicki and kind of directing them to kind of work with each other as being in a different time frame?
Yeah, that was a big concern throughout. Is just how do we tie these characters together? There was a lot of discussion whether we wanted to physically portray them as one person in some sort of way. I think a more obvious movie maybe would have, or like an approach would have like put a mole or a freckle on them or some sort of like physical, melding element. But I feel like it was more our interest to not get too nitpicky about, and just kind of allowing the actors to be themselves, and then just to trust the audience to make the connection. I think it's interesting because we do most of the character building with the older version of Bella, and then like halfway through the film, we're kind of asking you to trust the character building we've done as the older woman, and allow that to carry on to the younger version of her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the younger version is more of it's just like a dream. It's for illogical the way that her character exists in the movie, and it's like kind of a projection of Preble's mind and dreams, and so we weren't so concerned about making it about tying the two performances, because I think that can get tricky in terms of like impressions or mimicry. It just seems like it's not really the point that we want to convince you that this is the same person. I think I like to just use people's natural presences, and I think that's sort of how we approached the different ages.
Mm. Do you two have a favorite moments on set? Like either of you, I'm sure they both might be different or the same, but something that happened, whether it was behind the scenes or a specific scene that you really feel was impactful for what you were working on.
Yeah, I always remember, so we filmed in these two sections, and the first shoot in September, we had been in the house, I think for 5 or 6 days, just filming in the house. And then the next day we went to the beach, and I just remember feeling so much relief to be out of the house and to be on the sand and in the water. And it was like a nice, like unseasonably warm September day, and the whole crew, I think, was just like, it felt like we were kids, just like who had made it to the beach after a long like school year or something. And that really is like the feeling there when they're on the beach. It's like this joy and this release. So that was the first thing that just popped in my head. I just going to the beach with the film crew and like feeling so lucky to be like all here with a camera and actors and be outside under like a beautiful blue sky. And
when had you started filming? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
We started filming September of 2019.
Okay, cool. So nothing crazy had happened yet, because I know a lot of the films that were coming out were during pandemic times, and it was
we got very lucky. We finished filming in December, and we had one more shoot actually planned in April of 2020. We were going to do one more little pickup shoot for a day in a desert, and we had to first postpone that with everything that was happening, and then it kind of worked to our advantage because we realized actually as we edit, we don't really need this scene anymore, and the resources we were going to put towards this we can put towards other areas of the movie in post, like more special effects and all these other things. So but yeah, Kentucker, do you have any things that stick out?
Yeah, I think the moment for me, or the day for me that was the most surreal and exciting was being on the ship. There's a sequence that we're sort of lost at sea with our character, and he's interacting with these rat sailors, and the movie is kind of just blowing wide open, and everything's going into these really surreal dreamscapes, and anything is possible, and years pass, and all of a sudden one day I have a beard, and it's been 7 years late, 7 years at the open ocean, and we were able to film. We didn't know we were going to film this stuff, and some of it we filmed at like a bar that looked kind of like a ship, but then there was this actual ship that we filmed at in the Baltimore harbor. It's this historic, authentic 19th century ship that we got access to. Wait, I don't even know how old it is, but is it 19th century?
Yeah, I think
Anyway,
it was put in the water right around the Civil War.
yeah. Anyways, it's this incredible, and I'm in full captain regalia, and it's just like I had some very unreal moments throughout that day where it felt like a real movie. It's like we made this movie for such little amount of money, and our past is such like DIY cinema that you don't have access to these really large sets, and even on that day there were a lot of people in the we had to film out like the commercial. It was obviously in dock, and it's a very touristy area, so we had to frame out a lot of different things and sounds, and there were people walking around the ship. But there were definitely moments like that. How did we get here? Like this is what it should feel like to make a movie. It's really exciting.
Well, you did make a movie. You guys made an incredible movie, and I'm really, again, thank you so much for letting me be able to check it out. Everybody, when is it going to be released, or what's the release plan?
We're still figuring that out. I think we'll probably know pretty soon. And yeah, hopefully it'll find a great home online, and everybody can watch it before too long.
Absolutely. Well, Albert and Kentucker, thank you absolutely so much for coming on and letting me ask awkward questions and get amazing, profound answers. And yeah, I cannot wait to see your next thing. I know today is the award stuff, so best of luck to you. I'm excited to see what comes of all this.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Patrick. It was great talking to you.